Hello, how are you today? Let's get to my May-June reading wrap-up. Elevation by Stephen King. I have to say I love his shorter books. I wish he wrote more of them. I'm actively trying to seek out his shorter stories. I loved The Long Walk. That is one of my favorites. I actually think that's one of his best, and that's a really short read too. I recommend that. But this one, Elevation, it's a very simple story. So if you want just a really quick read that is interesting and pleasant, it has really memorable characters, it's a really good story, I would say read this for sure. So I DNF'd Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. I hope that's how you pronounce her name. Yeah, I heard that it was kind of a strange book, but that it was really great, it was really interesting, and I just could not get through it. This is the second book that I read by this author. I read Convenience Store Woman. I did get through that, and I thought it was very strange, and I can't really say that I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it, but I read Earthlings just because it got really good reviews, and I just couldn't do it. I don't know if there's something in, I guess, the translation or something, but there's a disconnection with her books that I just can't get past, and it's very hard for me to become invested in any of the characters. Also DNF'd Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Normally I love this author. I really enjoyed her books, but this one just did not do it for me. I was bored. I thought the format of the book, where it's all the different characters are being interviewed, and it's kind of jumping back and forth from each character. I thought it was an interesting format. It's not something that you see all that often, but I felt like the book wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't progressing, and the other issue I had with it was that all the characters in the book were all repeating themselves. They were all repeating the same thing that happened, because they're interviewing like 6 different people, so you have like 6 different characters telling their version of one instance that happened, and I was just bored. It was just redundant. I was like, can we just get on with it already? Next up is The Secrets You Keep by Kate White. It was okay. It was kind of forgettable. The very plot is something that we've seen a billion times before. A woman has an accident that she's recovering from. She suddenly develops amnesia, and she's trying to piece together parts of these lost few days that she's had. And then she comes to find out that her husband is not everything that he seems. I would say it was mildly entertaining. I mean, I did get through it. I did read it fairly quickly, but overall, it just kind of missed the mark for me. Next up is The Fiance by the same author. I did like this book better. I got through it pretty quickly. My main issues with the story was that I didn't like any of the characters. They're all pretty privileged people, and I just couldn't really relate to any of them. I think that's an issue that a lot of people are going to have with this book. There's more, okay, sorry, mild spoiler alert. There's more than one murder that happens in this book, and when you find out at the end what's actually going on, I wasn't terribly convinced. I DNF'd Strange Weather by Joe Hill. I'm not sure why. I was enjoying it. It's a collection of short stories, and he's a really good writer. This is the first book that I've read by him, and I definitely want to read more. And I also think that I am going to come back to this book at some point, because I didn't hate it. It was just taking a really long time to get through. It was like I was reading it and I was enjoying it, but I wasn't really looking forward to picking up this book again. I don't know if that makes any sense. And next we have All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I've read quite a few books by Colleen Hoover. I've also DNF'd some. This one is by far my favorite book that I have read by this. It's about a married couple trying to conceive, and their inability to do that is putting a lot of stress on their marriage. Even though it's not a situation that I can necessarily relate to, I don't have kids, I don't want kids, but I was so invested in this story. I was so invested in these characters. Some of my past issues with this author is that she creates these characters that are not always believable, and they do and say things that I don't find very believable. But this couple was by far, to me, the most realistic depiction of a couple that I've ever read by this author. So yeah, I would say if you read any books by Colleen Hoover, I would say read this one. And finally, we have An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. So this book is about a young woman living in New York City, and she makes contact with an alien. A friend of hers records the encounter, and of course they upload it to YouTube, and she becomes very, very famous in a very short amount of time. I really enjoyed this book. There is a sequel, which I am going to be starting hopefully this weekend. I'm really, really excited. It is a beautifully foolish endeavor. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I did not agree with a lot of decisions that this character made. She's very young, and obviously this whole fame thing is completely new to her. So it was understandable, but she makes a lot of really stupid decisions in this book. But I got through it really quickly. It's a really great story. The characters were great, and I would highly recommend it. So that is it. That is my May-June reading wrap-up. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys very soon. Have a great day.